You're watching MH Nation. Get the latest NBA news, transfer rumors, and match updates fast. Like, share, and subscribe to stay ahead of the game.
Excited. Klay Thompson just sent the Lakers a message they can't ignore. And that's not even the biggest news today. Curious. What if I told you that in the span of 24 hours, the Los Angeles Lakers found themselves connected to a four-time NBA champion, a former lottery pick forward, a shocking trade proposal involving LeBron James' own son, and a former all-star who basically vanished from the league for an entire year? Sounds like fiction, right? Surprised, Klay Thompson's own father is wanting him to join the Lakers, and Klay just confirmed it's his dream too. Lakers fans, what if the greatest shooter of this generation has literally been dreaming about wearing purple and gold his entire life? Because that is exactly what just came out, and it did not come from some anonymous source or some insider with a burner account. It came straight from Klay Thompson himself. Let's set the scene. Klay Thompson is sitting there on a random weekend, scrolling through his phone, and he comes across a video. Not just any video, a modified NBA 2K simulation showing him suited up in the gold number 11 jersey, playing alongside Magic Johnson, James Worthy, AC Green, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar during the tail end of the legendary Showtime era. This simulation drops him right into a matchup against the Detroit Pistons, and in this virtual world, Klay is putting up video game numbers. We're talking over 23 points a game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, catching lobs from Magic himself, and throwing down highlight reel dunks. Now here's the part that got everybody talking. Klay didn't just watch this video and scroll past it. He posted it to his Instagram story with a caption that stopped Lakers X, dead in its tracks. He wrote, and I'm paraphrasing here, that this is basically what his dreams look like on a regular basis, and he thanked the creator for putting the simulation together. A simple laughing emoji attached, but the message underneath was anything but simple. Think about the timing of this. This wasn't some random Tuesday. This came right as multiple reports started circulating that the Dallas Mavericks have been actively exploring trade scenarios involving Thompson. According to Christian Clark of The Athletic, it remains completely up in the air whether the 36-year-old sharpshooter is even going to be back in a Mavericks uniform next season. And here's the kicker. That same report indicated Thompson himself would be open to a move to Los Angeles. Let's talk contract for a second because this matters. Thompson is heading into the final year of the 3-year, $50 million deal he signed with Dallas back in 2024. He is still owed right around $17.5 million for this upcoming season. That number matters because it makes a straight-up trade complicated. A team taking on that kind of money needs matching salary, and that's not always easy to line up, which is exactly why the buyout conversation has become the hot topic. Now here's where the family drama comes in, and honestly, this might be the most fascinating layer of the entire story. Michael Thompson, Klay's father, is a Lakers legend in his own right. He was the #1 overall pick in the 1978 draft, and he came over to Los Angeles during the 1986-87 season, becoming a key rotation piece off the bench for back-to-back championship teams. In that very 1988-89 season that Klay's 2K simulation recreated, Michael was putting up over 9 points and nearly 6 rebounds a game as one of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's primary backups. Michael has never been shy about wanting his son to follow in his footsteps. Back in 2024 free agency, he publicly campaigned for Klay to sign with the Lakers. Didn't happen. Klay ended up choosing Dallas instead, largely because Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving recruited him hard. And speaking of irony, Luka Doncic, the very guy who helped convince Klay to sign with the Mavericks, is now the franchise player of the Los Angeles Lakers. Life comes at you fast in this league, and just recently, Michael doubled down again. When speculation started heating up about a potential Klay to Lakers move, Michael responded on social media with a short but loaded message, essentially saying he is actively trying to make this happen, punctuated with an angry emoji that tells you exactly how invested he is in seeing his son in that Lakers uniform. Now let's be real with each other for a second. Was Klay's Instagram post a trade request? No. It was a tribute to his dad's era, a fun piece of nostalgia. But context is everything, and when you stack this post on top of the Athletics reporting and Mike Hall's very public recruiting pitch, it's hard not to read between the lines here. But hold on, because here is where things get complicated on the business side, and this next update should temper some of that excitement. Multiple additional reports have surfaced indicating that even though both the Lakers and the Miami Heat are extremely interested in Thompson, Dallas has shown very little urgency to actually negotiate a buyout. According to Bleacher Report insider Jake Fisher, the Mavericks have been, in his words, very resistant to actually moving forward on any buyout agreement. Fisher explained that Dallas understands exactly what kind of market is forming around Thompson. They know Los Angeles wants him, they know Miami wants him, and that gives Dallas leverage. Rather than just releasing him for nothing, the Mavericks would much rather work out a trade that nets them draft compensation. On top of that, Dallas is already carrying 16 players on standard contracts, which is one over the league limit, so a roster move is coming one way or another. But that doesn't mean it has to be Thompson, and it definitely doesn't mean it has to happen on the Lakers or Heat's timeline. Both LA and Miami have reportedly offered trade packages, but neither team has offered anything Dallas actually wants. Reports point to names like Jared Vanderbilt or Nikola Jovic being floated, and the Mavericks have shown little to no interest in taking on those specific contracts. So where does that leave the Lakers in a waiting game? The interest is mutual. Klay wants it, his dad wants it, and the front office clearly has eyes on him as a floor-spacing veteran shooter who could be lethal next to Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. But until Dallas budges, this remains a watch-this-space situation rather than a done deal. Still, for the first time since that 2024 free agency near miss, there genuinely appears to be a realistic path for Klay Thompson to end up wearing the purple and gold. Keep this tab open, Lakers Nation, because this is one we are going to be tracking every single day. A jersey number just exposed the truth about Jonathan Kuminga's future, and it's massive news for the Lakers. Sometimes the biggest signals in the NBA don't come from an insider's tweet or an official press release. They come from something as small as a jersey number. And that's exactly what just happened with Jonathan Kuminga, and it might be telling us everything we need to know about where he's actually headed. Here's the situation. Jonathan Kuminga remains one of the most talked about names still sitting on the free agent market this deep into the offseason. He's been heavily linked to a handful of teams, most notably the Los Angeles Lakers and the Cleveland Cavaliers, but as of right now, he is not signed anywhere. So here's the detail that has everybody buzzing. The Atlanta Hawks, the team Kuminga finished last season with after being acquired at the trade deadline, just brought in veteran guard Lou Dort in a trade from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Normal roster move, right? Except for one small detail. According to NBA reporter Etienne Catalan, Dort is going to wear jersey number 0 with the Hawks. And guess who wore number 0 for Atlanta all of last season? Jonathan Kuminga. Now, on its own, this wouldn't mean much. Players change numbers all the time, but context matters here, and the context is not looking great for a Kuminga-Atlanta reunion. Dort actually wore number 5 during his entire tenure in Oklahoma City, but he couldn't keep that number in Atlanta because Dyson Daniels already has it locked up. So Dort needed a new number anyway, and the Hawks handed him the exact digit that belonged to Kuminga just months ago. If the front office genuinely expected Kuminga to be back, would they really give away his number that easily? Some insiders don't think so. Let's back up and remind everybody how Kuminga even got to Atlanta in the first place. He was traded away from the Golden State Warriors at the deadline last season. In his run with the Hawks, he appeared in 16 games, including one start, playing right around 22 minutes a night. His numbers were respectable: 12.5 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists a night, shooting just under 48% from the field and 35% from 3. Solid, not spectacular, but enough to show he can be a legitimate rotation piece. At the start of this offseason, Atlanta declined his team option, which is what pushed him into unrestricted free agency in the first place. Since then, it's been a long, slow saga. There was chatter that Kuminga might actually be open to a short-term reunion with the Hawks. But league insiders like Mark Stein and Jake Fisher have both pointed out that even if Kuminga wanted to return, Atlanta would need to help facilitate a sign and trade to get him anywhere close to the $22.5 million salary he made last year, and after adding Dort, plus another guard in Ryan Nembhard, the Hawks are now bumping up against the roster limit, which severely limits their flexibility to take back money in any deal. Now let's zoom out to why this actually matters for the Lakers specifically, because this is bigger than just a jersey number story. Right now, the Western Conference has a clear top tier forming. The San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder are widely viewed as the top two teams, the last two conference representatives in the NBA Finals. Behind them, there's a genuine three-team race for that next tier of contention between the Los Angeles Lakers, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Denver Nuggets. And Kuminga's decision could be the deciding factor in who claims that third spot. Think about the Lakers' actual roster need here. As things currently stand, Los Angeles is looking at internal options like Zaire Williams, Jake LaRavia, and Adu Tiro to fill that starting forward spot. None of those are proven, stabilizing answers. Adding a player with Kuminga's physical tools and upside would be a real difference maker, giving head coach J.J. Redick a legitimate starting caliber four to plug in alongside Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. But it's not just about Kuminga's talent level. It's about denying him to a direct conference rival. The Timberwolves, who currently project a starting lineup of LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, Ayo Dosunmu, Jaden McDaniels, and Rudy Gobert, also view Kuminga as an ideal fit to bump their rotation and push Dosunmu to a bench role. So whichever team lands him doesn't just get better, they keep a conference rival from getting better too. That's a 2-for-1 swing in the standings. Now there is a real financial hurdle here for the Lakers. Reports indicate LA's initial offer to Kuminga was somewhere around 2 years and $20 million, and Kuminga reportedly turned that down, holding out for something closer to what he was making with Atlanta. That gap has been the sticking point. But here's an encouraging wrinkle for Lakers fans. Insider Javan Buha recently pointed out that Atlanta is now in a tough spot of their own. With their roster crowded after the Dort trade, the Hawks either need to work out a sign and trade or simply let Kuminga walk and get absolutely nothing in return. That reality strips away a lot of Atlanta's leverage in trade negotiations with the Lakers, which could open the door for LA to get a deal done at a more favorable number than initially expected. Bottom line, Lakers Nation. This jersey number might seem like a small detail, but when you connect it with the roster crunch in Atlanta and the desperate need for a starting forward here in Los Angeles, it's looking more and more like Jonathan Kuminga could be wearing purple and gold sooner rather than later. This is a storyline that could single-handedly decide who's the third best team out west heading into the season. Lakers fans are not ready for this. A shocking 4-team trade would send Bronny James straight to the champions. Okay, Lakers Nation, brace yourselves for this one because this is going to be an emotional topic for a lot of you. A new trade proposal is circulating that would send Bronny James, yes, LeBron's son, all the way across the country to the reigning NBA champion New York Knicks. Let's break down exactly how this would work and whether it actually makes sense. Here's the situation the Lakers find themselves in. Bronny James is entering a season where his contract is fully guaranteed, which forces the front office into a real decision. Do they keep developing him in Los Angeles, or do they move on? And based on everything coming out right now, it sounds like moving on might be the more likely path, even though the trade market for a still developing guard tied to one of the most famous last names in sports is naturally limited. Let's talk numbers first. Bronny's salary is only $2.3 million. That's nothing in today's NBA. But reportedly, the Lakers would rather have that cap flexibility used somewhere else on the roster rather than continuing to invest developmental minutes into him. So here's the hypothetical deal that's being floated. And I want to stress, this is a proposed scenario, not a confirmed trade. It's a 4-team blockbuster involving the Lakers, the Knicks, the Sacramento Kings, and the Detroit Pistons. Here's how it breaks down. The Lakers would send Bronny James to the Knicks. In return, Los Angeles would receive veteran guard Malik Monk, along with a 2030 second-round pick coming from New York and a 2031 second-round pick coming from Detroit. The Sacramento Kings would receive Jaden Hardy, Dalton Knecht, and 2 additional second-round picks from the Lakers. And the Detroit Pistons would round out the deal by receiving Jared Vanderbilt and Miles McBride. Let's talk about why each team would actually want to do this. Starting with the Knicks, yes, they just won the championship, but that title-winning core comes with a massive price tag. They're deep into luxury tax territory, which severely limits their financial flexibility. A cheap, controllable rookie-scale piece like Bronny is exactly the type of low-cost depth move a team in the Knicks position looks for. It doesn't require them to give up any significant future assets beyond second-round selections. Now, for the Lakers side of things, bringing back Malik Monk would be a genuinely useful basketball move, and it comes with a bit of nostalgia too, since Monk previously played in Los Angeles during the 2021-22 season. He's 28 years old, still in his athletic prime, and while he's always profiled as a instant offense microwave scorer off the bench rather than a full-time starter, he brings real value. Over the last several seasons, he's stayed durable, playing 60-plus games in back-to-back years with Sacramento, and he shot just under 40% from three-point range last season. Compare that upgrade in shot creation and shooting consistency off the bench to what Bronny currently provides, and from a pure basketball value standpoint, it's an upgrade for LA's depth chart, especially with Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves dealing with health concerns during last year's playoff run. Having a proven scoring guard as insurance behind them is not a small thing. For the Kings, this move is about creating financial breathing room. Moving off Monk's $20.1 million salary and replacing it with the far cheaper contracts of Hardy and Knecht would reportedly open up around $14 million in tax space and $19 million in apron space for Sacramento, giving them real flexibility if they want to pursue a broader rebuild or retool. And for Detroit, who are firmly not in rebuild mode right now, adding proven veterans like Jared Vanderbilt and Miles McBride gives them exactly the kind of tough, experienced depth pieces a team gearing up for a playoff push wants to add. Now here's an interesting wrinkle that this proposed trade actually addresses. There's been ongoing speculation that Bronny would only be willing to leave the Lakers if it meant reuniting with his father, LeBron James, who recently signed with the Philadelphia 76ers in free agency. This Knicks proposal essentially throws cold water on that theory, showing that a Bronny trade to a completely unrelated franchise is very much on the table and being seriously discussed in league circles. So, look, nothing here is official. This is a proposed framework, not a signed, sealed trade. But it tells you something important. The Lakers front office appears to genuinely be exploring life after Bronny. And if a deal like this actually materializes, Malik Monk coming back to Los Angeles would give this roster a real jolt of scoring depth, heading into a season where they're chasing serious championship aspirations. Ben Simmons is trying to make an NB a comeback. Should the Lakers actually take the risk? All right, Lakers Nation, this next name is going to bring back a lot of memories. Some good, some extremely frustrating. Ben Simmons is reportedly attempting an NBA comeback, and his name is now being connected to the Lakers. But before you get excited, you need to hear the full story, because this one comes with a serious warning label. Let's start with the actual news. According to ESPN's Mark Spears, Ben Simmons is currently a full participant with, in his words, zero restrictions, at a private minicamp for the Australian men's national basketball team happening this week in Melbourne. That alone is significant, because plenty of fans genuinely assumed Simmons might never step foot on an NBA court again, despite the fact that he's still only 30 years old. Spears' report goes further, indicating that multiple NBA teams have already expressed real interest in Simmons, and that he is open to signing on a minimum contract. One unnamed team out west has reportedly even put a non-guaranteed minicamp offer on the table already. Now let's remind everybody why Simmons still has legitimate defensive appeal despite everything that's happened. This is a guy who made 3 all-star teams and landed on 2 all-defensive first teams at his peak. When healthy and engaged, his combination of size, length, and playmaking instincts is still rare in this league. Picture this scenario for a second. Simmons operating as a small ball 5 behind Walker Kessler instead of Kevin Looney, or as a roaming defensive menace playing behind Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. On paper, that sounds intriguing. The Lakers do lack length and perimeter defense, and a healthy version of Simmons could theoretically help address that. But here's where we need to pump the brakes hard, because Simmons' recent track record is genuinely concerning. He didn't play a single game last season, taking a full year away from basketball to recover from multiple injuries, and by his own camp's account, he spent a good chunk of that time fishing rather than training. Before that, his last NBA action came with the Los Angeles Clippers during the 2024-25 season, where he appeared in just 18 regular season games and 5 playoff games. He was fine in that role. Not a difference maker, just a solid depth piece. Now, Simmons' godfather has been out there telling reporters that his athleticism has fully returned and that he's feeling as good as he's felt in years. And look, that's exactly the kind of quote you'd expect to hear, whether it's true or not. It's the sort of thing said specifically to generate interest from teams. Healthy skepticism is warranted here. One Lakers-focused writer over at Lake Show Life broke down both sides of this and landed on a pretty clear recommendation. And honestly, it's hard to argue with the logic. The case for caution centers on 2 things. First, the complete lack of a jump shot, and his history as a poor free throw shooter simply doesn't fit well next to a ball-dominant, pace and space offense built around Luka Doncic. Second, there's real risk to locker room chemistry. Simmons has a documented history of appearing to disengage or even manufacture injuries when he's unhappy with his role, and that kind of culture risk isn't something a team with genuine championship aspirations wants to gamble on. That said, there is one silver lining working in the Lakers' favor here. The financial risk is basically non-existent. Since Simmons is reportedly willing to sign for the minimum, there's very little downside from a cap management perspective if the fit simply doesn't work out. It's worth noting Simmons does have a real connection to head coach J.J. Redick. The two were actually teammates back in Philadelphia, so there's at least some existing relationship and mutual respect there, which could matter if the Lakers ever do circle back. So what's the actual recommendation being floated? Wait it out. Let Simmons sign somewhere else this offseason first. Let him prove on somebody else's roster and somebody else's dime. Whether this comeback is legitimate or just another chapter in a pattern we've unfortunately seen before, if he shows real signs of being back to form and playing winning basketball, the Lakers could always circle back and put together a trade package for him closer to the trade deadline in January or February, once the front office has more information and far less risk. Bottom line, the Lakers already have a genuinely exciting roster heading into this season. There's no need to disrupt team chemistry chasing a reclamation project this early, when patience costs absolutely nothing. So there you have it, Lakers Nation. 4 massive storylines all developing at the exact same time. Klay Thompson dreaming out loud about Los Angeles while his dad campaigns behind the scenes. Jonathan Kuminga's jersey number quietly telling us where his future might be headed. A shocking proposed trade that would send Bronny James to the defending champions. And Ben Simmons attempting a comeback that could either be a low-risk depth addition or a chemistry disaster waiting to happen. Which one of these stories has you the most fired up? Drop a comment down below and let me know. Are you Team Klay, Team Kuminga, or are you telling the front office to stay far away from Ben Simmons?